This video was inspired by the California Standards for Arts in Music and specifically addresses Standards 3, 4, and 10. Standard 3 deals with when creative work is ready to be shared with the public. Standard 4 addresses how artists select repertoire, and Standard 10 describes how artists make meaningful connections through music. In the singing world, we classify voices into 5 major categories, from lowest to highest: bass, baritone, tenor, mezzo-soprano or alto, and soprano. But within those 4 groups, there are many other specific classifications. Of all the singing classifications, the Coloratura Soprano has the highest range. That means they can sing higher than anyone else. But the superhuman abilities of Coloratura Sopranos are even more amazing because their music, more often than not, also features extremely fast runs, light and precise, tricky musical passages, and acrobatic, laser-quick arpeggios. Join me now with Opera San Luis Obispo resident artist, Dr. Alba Franco-Cancél, as we dive deep into her exciting career as a Coloratura Soprano, the highest voice. It's wonderful to speak with you today, Alba. You are a very talented Coloratura Soprano. We've worked together quite frequently, and I'm excited to share who you are as an artist and what makes your Fach very special in the world of singing. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am Alba Franco-Cancél. I am a Coloratura Soprano, originally from Puerto Rico, and now I live here in San Luis Obispo, and I teach voice and I sing.
Alba, I would imagine one of the most common roles for you to perform in your career is that of Mozart's Queen of the Night from the Magic Flute. What makes this song especially challenging for you?
You know, in general, this aria, it's very challenging for anybody. But for me, because even though it's a very short aria, it's like less than 3 minutes, it requires a lot of energy, vocal energy, physical energy. The queen is angry, and as a performer, I have to portray that anger in a way that doesn't affect my voice. Now, the limitations I had with this particular performance that we just saw is that I am up in a, was it 6-foot ladder?
Yeah.
where I couldn't actually move. I could only use my hands. So I have the limitation of not being able to use my entire body to portray that anger. So I only had my face and my hands, which is not a very natural movement because we express ourselves with the entire body. And on top of that, I had the limitation, I had to look down at Pamina, which means that my posture got affected and I needed to make it seem natural. So looking down and trying to at the same time connect with Amy, you know, Amy Goimerak, Pamina, trying to connect with her to get that energy going. It was very hard to kind of like compromise between those two. And I was not only 6 foot tall, like in that ladder, I was like completely in the back of the theater. So there was also the concern the voice was traveling up instead of forward. It was very, very challenging, but it was such a beautiful experience, and it was such a different, you know, different exercise for me as a singer.
It feels to me as a conductor, I feel like we measure our Coloratura Sopranos by the Queen of the Night aria. It's such an important audition piece. It's a piece of music that sort of gives you your passport to being a professional. What would you say to a young Coloratura that wants a career like yours?
You know, I would say the Queen of the Night, of course, is a staple on our repertoire, but it's not the entire story. It is an important aria, and it's what most people expect from a coloratura. But there's many other repertoire. There are many other arias that can bring the same, you know, the same vocal challenges and vocal characteristics of a coloratura like that.
When do you know your work is ready to share with the public?
Well, that is a great question. I know I'm ready to perform a piece when I'm confident about the presentation and I feel free to just focus on the performance and on the message. As a performer, you're never 100% sure. There are always doubts before performing a song in public for the first time. But usually, I know I'm ready to share a song with the public when I have properly done my research about the song, when I feel I have done all my translations and I understand the text and the subtext, when I have worked on diction and I have learned the music correctly, and I have coached the song or the aria several times with my coaches.
It sounds as though uh, that all sort of comes together, meaning you know when you're ready to perform, when the music is sort of part of your soul almost.
Exactly. Yeah. The thing is, you never know how it will actually be the first time you perform it, because that first time there are nerves and it things that might have never happened before could happen. So yeah, that's why I say you're never 100% sure how it actually will happen on that specific moment. But after you perform it the first time, it's you kind of get a sense the places in the song where you have to just pay a little bit more attention or work a little bit more.
Alba, in 2019, we performed together the bell song from Lakmé by Delibes, and that piece presents some wonderfully challenging music for the Coloratura Soprano. Let's take a look at this clip. Alba, tell us a little bit about why this song is so special for you.
I absolutely love singing the bell song. I love the music. I love the storytelling aspect of the aria, which usually for coloraturas, um, we have more, our repertoire tends to be more about the virtuoso aspect, but this aria has all this warmth and storytelling, you know, form. And I feel like I connect very well with that French sensibility.
Alba, I remember one of our first performances together when we had the OperaSLO Grand Orchestra at the Vina Robles Amphitheater. And that was also very special because I had the opportunity to meet your husband, Stephen, for the first time on
That's right.
stage as your mad scientist.
Mhm.
Let's take a look at this clip from the Doll song from our 2017 performance at the Vina Robles Amphitheater. Alba, tell us, do you have a fun memory attached to this song and this particular performance or other performances that you've given of this beautiful piece by Offenbach?
I do always love the audience's reaction every time I sing this song. It's just fun and it's so different to, like, for example, the bell song where it has the storytelling and it has like, a little bit more in-depth story. This one is it's just a doll. There's no emotions. There's nothing else, just the robotic virtuosic singing. So it's not as fun in that aspect for the performance, but the reactions of the audience makes for all of it. It's amazing. I love how the audience reacts every time and just how the doll changes depending on how the audience reacts, because if I see that something is working in terms of acting, I will just exaggerate a little bit more for their enjoyment. But for this particular performance, the Vina Robles and the Vina Robles Amphitheater, I remember being a little bit nervous about the limitations of the microphone because I had to adjust a lot of movement, especially when she runs out of battery. because I had to sing in the mic. So I had to kind of like change all those movements a little bit, just adapt them for that particular, performance.
Yeah, we had you a bit trapped in that sort of small little box so that
Yeah,
you wouldn't leave the microphone. And there's Stephen running back and forth across the stage to wind you up again.
exactly.
That was great. Tell us a little bit about how you make a meaningful connection when you're creating and performing music.
Of course. To me, the beauty of the art of singing relies on that very special connection between the performer and the music and the audience. That's my favorite part of learning a new song and performing, just finding myself within the music, finding ways to relate, to understand the character, to feel empathy, to not judge the character at any time, to allow the character just to live through me. To make a meaningful connection, I usually make sure to have learned everything I need to know about the score, the text, and the entire work. I tend actually to read the libretto before actually watching the opera production, and then I look closely at the scoring for musical cues about the character's personality. I find that this way, I feel that I'm able to, I don't know, like to create the character my own way, and I am able to be way more creative with my acting choices, keeping my performance more organic and fresh and honest, and allowing me to, connect better with the work.
Alba, just a few weeks before we performed at the Wiener Robles Amphitheater, you and I had presented the Queen of the Nights aria as well as Glitter and Be Gay with the Lompoc Pops Orchestra. What was that like, the transition from one week we're in a church and the next week we're in a 3,400 seat amphitheater with a completely different orchestra?
Yeah, it's a whole different kind of performance because in the amphitheater I had the mic where we performed with the Lompoc. It was a smaller place, but we still had that giant orchestra. You know, it was a big orchestra in such a small place, so it's like there's there's like that vocal challenge for me to, you know, we have to act it out, and I feel like I want to make all this dynamics to kind of like paint the text and be more dramatic, but then I have that giant orchestra in the back that I feel like I have to project over. So it's a whole different story. So the character changes a lot, because there are things that I cannot do, which is not better or worse, it's just different.
Tell us a little bit about your unique way of warming up. Every singer I've found is different and has their own perspective on this, and so I'm very excited to hear what your warm up is.
Yeah, my warm up sessions change every day depending on how I feel emotionally, physically, and vocally, and whether I'm warming up for just a practice session or for a performance. For example, if I feel my voice a little bit less resonant than usual, I then include more warm ups designed exactly to work on my resonance. For example, I would do something like mingo, 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 mong, mong, mong. Just to work on that a little bit more forward and more resonant sound. Or if I feel a little bit low energy, I do actually do some cardio workouts, and then I incorporate like fast paced warm ups like just to kind of get that energy running. Or if I feel like low energy, I then work out on warm ups that slow down that heart rate. So I do something like like just design my warming up sessions that way, just to make sure that I'm not only warming up my voice, but that I am also warming up my technique.
And how did you develop these warm-ups? Were they sort of tricks that you've learned as a professional and as a student, or did a teacher give you these warm-ups and then over time maybe you've evolved them to work for you a little bit more personally?
Yeah, you get like all this like tools from everyone you have worked with, all your voice teachers and your coaches. You kind of actually keep what you like, and then you just sometimes just come up with exercises that work out for yourself. Like many of the workout the warm-ups that I do are, I just make them up because I know what sounds work for specific vocal goals. So I kind of like put together either ones that I know or come up with other ones or just mix them up.
How do you mentally prepare for performing?
Yeah, well, everybody thinks like performing is for extroverted, and and I am a very introverted person, and singing for me specifically requires of so much emotional, social, and physical engagement and energy. So when I have a big performance, depending on how big it is, I either need to isolate the day before entirely or just the day of the performance. If it's a full-on opera, like Così van tutte, I will be definitely isolating the day before because
Mm,
I need to just gather all that energy to recharge, my energy level.
sure. If it was Così fan tutte, you'd be playing Despina,
The spina, yeah,
and there's
exactly.
just so much energy in that role, and I can imagine. I'm sort of picturing you in this solitary place, just amassing this power that will explode on the stage.
Yeah, you just like, I just need to just be alone, not talk, and kind of like get into that place. But I know many of other singers that don't need that because they actually recharge their energy by just talking to other people.
Tell us a little bit about what those moments are just before you come on the stage. What's going on in your dressing room, maybe 15 minutes before call?
You know, before call, it's an emotion that it feels a little bit like nervousness and anxiousness, but it's not really. It's just excitement. I feel like I cannot wait to share all the work, and I cannot wait to just let go of all that energy I have been just saving for the audience for the past, day.
Yeah. No, I very much relate to that. In fact, I've never heard it said that way, that you're so excited to share everything that's been waiting to happen for this audience, and I definitely relate to that myself too.